Ready, sir.
Yes, we first want to congratulate Coach Davis on a great win on Saturday night and wish both men's and women's basketball a lot of luck in their tournaments moving forward. Courtney's had just an outstanding year and only her third year, and Hubert's team just keeps getting better and better, so it's going to be a fun watch for them moving forward in the tournaments. I know you all are really busy and overloaded, 2 practices and a bunch of games coming up, so I know you're going to be on the run. So safe travels as well. Saturday was fun. We had our first day in pads. We came out healthy, which is always very important. It's really like we're starting over. You've got a new defense. You've got 2 new defensive coaches. You've got a lot of young players that are very talented, but they're still young and haven't proven themselves yet. You've got new special teams with Coach Porter taking over. And then you've got a new offensive line coach that shows up here on Wednesday. So a lot of things are moving and shaking. What I do like is that I do feel like we're not there yet, but we're reestablishing our leadership, because that's what we've got to do. Michael Carter talked to the team, he and Miles Dorn, after practice on Saturday, and one thing Michael and you start looking at both Michael and Miles, they both talked about alpha dogs and leaders, and man, somebody got to step up and take over. The player-led teams are the best teams, not the coaching-led teams, and who are you guys? And love the energy, love the work, but leadership on bad days has got to kick in. So we're looking at the leadership. We're really reestablishing our chip on the shoulder like we had the first 2 years. We didn't seem to have that all the time last year, and that's on me as a head coach, so we got to get it back. Discipline shows up with mental mistakes and penalties, and we're working really, really hard to eliminate penalties and missed assignments, and we did a better job in both those areas on Saturday. Still really new into spring practice and didn't do a whole lot, no game plans, but we had very, very few penalties, and that's something that helps us. Got to get back to being a team. The last couple of years in our sport, transfer portal and NIL have been talked about so much, and neither one of those are something that really leans toward being a great team and pulling together. So we got to get the guys that are here to make sure that they pull together. But I did like the young, I like the new ideas, and I love the energy. We had 119 recruits, I think, in this weekend. We had tremendous energy at practice and in the building, and so it's been a fun 3 days of practice as we get started. Coach Chiswick and Coach Warren are I think they're doing an outstanding job. They've got the players' attention. We pretty simple with what we're doing, but the guys, they chase the ball hard on Saturday, and I like that. And we're making some progress up front. One of the recruits came out and said, "Man, you're big on defense." And I said, "Yeah, we are. We're big. Now we got to be good." But trying to play a lot of guys. Hate that we've got some really good secondary guys out. Tony Grimes even went to NFL Institute for juniors with the best players in the country this weekend, so he missed Saturday's practice, and he had a wonderful experience. So we had to cross-train and put some nickel guys at corner, and so that's good for us. Dontavius Nash is showing up. DeAndre Boykins is showing up. So we're seeing some things that we might not have seen if all the older guys were out there. So we're trying to take that negative and turn it into a positive. And Ray Vahasik's trying to coach all those young ones too and get them stirred up and get them going. So, but very, very impressed with what I've seen from Coach Chiswick. No drop off from his 5 years being out at all, and Coach Warren's really, really good at what he does. And also Pat Suttis coming in as our general manager. Pat and I had 3 great years at Texas together, and that's just been really, really smooth. I think he's the best in the country at what he does, and it really, really helps me. Takes a lot of pressure off me with roster management and recruiting because he's worked in that area for so long. Want to congratulate the guys that were in the NFL Combine this weekend. Sounds like everybody did a good job. There were rave reviews about Sam throwing the ball, and some of the receivers talking about it's such a great ball, but it was easy to catch. Probably the highlight of the weekend was Ty Chandler's 4.38. That was the second fastest time in the Combine, so good for him. And as Coach Moody, our NFL expert, said, that could move him up in the draft right there. So hopefully all the guys will use the Combine. And the name of the function that Tony went to this weekend is the NCAA Elite Student Athlete Symposium. So it's the NCAA Elite Student Athlete Symposium. And I think there were 30 guys chosen by the NFL across the country to go to this symposium. So good for Tony, and A.J. Blue went up with him and spent the weekend with him. So good for the guys that were invited to the Combine, all 5 of them. Our pro day is on March 28th, and of course you'll be invited to that. So all of our guys are getting ready to participate in our pro day, and that'll highlight the guys that did not get to go to the Combine. So we're excited for them. Lastly, and really what today's about, when Coach Searles decided he was leaving and told the guys on Sunday morning, or on Monday morning, that he was leaving, I had to make some quick decisions, because do we move spring practice back? We got practice on Tuesday. How fast can we move? What do we do? I had to get a room full of young offensive linemen that were, their heads were spinning. Coach, we're all excited about starting. We got so many things they know we've talked a lot about. We had the most sacks in the league. We had the most tackles for loss. So we've been all over tweaking the offense to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. And then your coach leaves. So I knew where I wanted to go. As I said, I keep my list. I called and asked permission at about 10:30 Monday morning to talk to Coach Bicknell. I talked to him at 1 that afternoon on a Zoom call. He was getting ready to go to practice, his first spring practice that afternoon, to show you how crazy this business can be. Then that night he was able to visit with his coach and call me late on Monday night to tell me that he was coming. So a lot of things happened very, very quickly. Where I was lucky, and I always pride myself in trying to find the best guy and as quick as you can. And I've always felt like that you've got to get as good or better coach when somebody leaves, and that way your fans and your players don't panic. They know that you're going to get a great coach. So Coach Lilly's done an outstanding job with our tight ends. Coach Porter's done an amazing job with our running backs, and we lost 2 good coaches at those positions, and then the same here. I think we hit a home run. 34-year veteran. All these young guys want to play in the NFL. Coach Bicknell's coached 7 seasons in the NFL, and he was on a Super Bowl champion team. So he and Coach Bly, one of them played for a Super Bowl and one coached for a Super Bowl. 10 years as a head coach, which brings a wealth of experience in this building for me, and lets me know that he understands my role, and he's going to keep things out of my office the best that he possibly can. His dad, legendary coach Jack Bicknell Sr., you love to be around guys who were raised in a coaching world. His brother's been a receiver coach in the NFL, his brother Bob. So there's so many great things about Jack when you start thinking about his career and his background, not even talking about his association with Coach Longo with 2 years at Ole Miss. He was with Larry Porter for a year at Auburn. He loves this offense. He loves Coach Longo. Louisville was a different offense, but they had the fewest number of sacks in the league, and they had the fewest number of tackles for loss in the league. I talked to Coach Moody. I've talked to a lot of pro scouts, and they think that they've told me he is one of the best teachers in the country. So that seems like with us that it should be with the familiarity of the offense, Coach Longo, Coach Porter, that we should have a seamless transition. And when he was out there Saturday coaching them, he didn't even drop off with the offense. He was throwing plays out and formations out, and the kids just had a smile on their face because they went from being panicked on Monday morning to really excited yesterday afternoon. Could I answer any questions before we get Coach Bicknell to come up?
All right, we got one here from Andrew Jones. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach, appreciate you taking this time. We didn't expect it, so it's always a nice surprise there. With Coach Bicknell, what's the biggest difference the kids in that group are going to have to deal with other than hearing a different voice and a different way of communicating?
Andrew, I'll let Jack talk to you about his style. He's we're so lucky to get one of the most experienced line coaches in the country. And how many times has we've got two coaches on our staff with NFL experience as coaches. John Lilly coaches the Rams and the Browns, and he comes back, so our tight ends are all excited about that NFL experience to help them get where they want to go. So we've got to use that knowledge to win games here, but also go to the next level. And with Coach Bicknell, 7 years, when you've coached and won a Super Bowl, he's been in those meetings, he's been in those rooms. He knows how to win college games, but he sure knows how to win at the NFL level. So I think the biggest thing for them is the offense isn't going to change except the tweaks that we've made. And those are things that we'll continue to work on that we had worked on for the last month. But normally, like I said, Andrew, we want to move quickly. I don't want kids sitting around worried about who's my coach and is he going to like me and are we going to change anything? So being here for spring practice was critical. And Coach Bicknell had to make a very difficult situation. It was tough for Stacy leaving me the day before practice. It was tough, Jack leaving a guy he really admires and likes in Coach Satterfield the day after the first practice. So I think the biggest thing is these guys need a new boss. They need a new parent, adult figure in that room. He needs a new team. So that's what you do in this business. You just move and all of a sudden you jump up and go. And Jack will have different style than our previous coach. I watched it on Saturday some. And we've got some things we need to fix, and he's very aware of those because he and Phil talk all the time. So that's why I think the thing will be more seamless just because of the familiarity of not only Jack with Larry and Phil, and they have talked, but also with just the offense in general. Jack really believes in this offense. He really believes in Phil.
With respect to recruiting, do you guys hit a little bit of a reset with who you're going after as far as the offensive line targets, or just continue on the kids that you've been communicating with?
Andrew, the best players are the best players. And Jack's a great recruiter, so most of the guys that we had approved, he'd already seen. And then as soon as he got here, we had him go back with Pat and sit and watch every young person that was here this weekend to make sure that if he didn't want them, then it would be, it's our responsibility to call the family and say, don't waste your time and money. It's not going to work with Coach Bicknell. That was Coach Searles. And then we'll continue to now look at all the other guys that we've had on our list that we're recruiting, which most of them he's already seen. It was amazing. He said, yeah, I talked to him the other night. Yeah, that guy I've been recruiting for 2 years. And so best players are the best players, and offensive linemen are one of the hardest things to find. So usually the best ones we're all on. So I don't see that being much of an issue at all. And basically what we had approved, Jack's already liked and approved himself.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, over to Gregory Hall.
Mack, with talking about that familiarity and it needing to be a quick hire, how much did Phil come to you and it'd be like Bicknell's first on my list, like you talked about lists the other week, or did Phil Longo have any communication with you about going after Bicknell or any offensive line coach?
You know, I hired a young person before I hired Phil to be the offensive line coach when I first got here. And he left to go to Houston in the first month. And then Coach Searles came available because Coach Rick resigned at Miami. And I've always wanted to hire people that I knew. And I had Coach Searles for 3 years at Texas. I had not been involved with this offense before. I've watched it, but I hadn't coached it. It's really, really critical if you can to get somebody that believes in it and knows it. And that's why I hired the first coach. Cliff Kingsbury recommended him to me, and he'd been in this offense. Lonnie Galloway's been in this offense. Coach Porter's been in this offense. Coach Lilly hasn't, but he's really adjusted very quickly. But Coach Longo talked to me about how much he loved Coach Bicknell 3 years ago. And that's who he would have wanted to hire then. And I just went with somebody I had more familiarity with. And then Stacy interviewed with the Giants. Stacy interviewed with South Carolina. So every time it would come up, my mind would go right back to Coach Bicknell. So it was an easy choice for me, harder choice for him because he had to leave a guy that he believes in right when it happened. And you know, there's not a good time for these things to happen. Usually if recruiting's over and you've got 2 or 3 weeks for spring practice is the best time, but you don't get to choose when somebody gets a call or wants to leave. And we've lost 3 coaches in 3 years, and 1 to Alabama, 1 to Georgia, and 1 to Florida, and I get it on all 3. There were reasons that all 3 left, and I got it. And my job is not to worry about who leaves. I'll never, ever beg anybody to stay or ask them to stay. My job is to make sure that I hire a good person moving forward.
Hey, quickly over to Alvaro Torres.
Hi, Coach Brown. I hope you're having a great day. Well, you already praised Coach Chisik, who won a national championship with Auburn in 2010, and Coach Bicknell, who won Super Bowl 46 with the Giants in 2012, I think. How important was it for you to fill your coaching staff with championship pedigree?
You always want to hire guys that have won. You always want to hire guys that believe in what you believe in. I love Jack's dad, Coach Bicknell Sr. I mean, he was one of those guys that I always looked up to at a young age. And Coach Bicknell was a senior on that team with his dad at Boston College, where Doug Flutie threw the Hail Mary in the end zone, won the game. He was the center on that team. He said, "Don't watch it closely. I missed my guy. He kind of slipped off of me at the end." So we don't want to go back and study that video. But Coach Bicknell Sr. is one of the nicest, most generous, most giving guys that all of us looked up to. And you go back to the Coach Schembechlers and the Coach Royals and all these names that we all knew. Coach Bicknell's right there with all of them because that's just who he was. So I followed his son through the years, and he had was with Chip Kelly and Ryan Day and these guys up in New Hampshire, and they were doing great things before anybody even knew what was going on out there. So he's just, he gets it, and he's been very successful. Coach Malzahn called our people and said, "Hey, you better hire this guy. He's the best that's out there, man. You better get him fast." I get Coach Porter in a different room than I get Coach Longo and say, "Coach Porter, what do you think?" And he said, "Oh, man," called him Bick. So I guess that meant they were close enough to have a nickname. So he says, "Bick, if you hire him, man, he's the best that's out there. He is unbelievable." And then Coach Longo's been on Coach's bandwagon for a long time. So I think more than anything else that my job is to make sure that I bring coaches in here that I would want my son or grandson to play for, number one. I got to trust them that much. And the second thing is I've got to make sure that I'm doing my job for our players, for the other staff members in the room, but also for the university administration and all of our fans. We said we were going to get this thing fixed. We did the first year. Orange Bowl second year. Third year we didn't reach our goal, so it's time to fix it. And to do that, you have to take drastic measures, and you have to make sure that it's not lip service. You change things. And we're changing a lot of things moving forward, and I'm really excited about it.
Okay, last question for Coach Brown today will come from Ross Martin.
Hey, Coach Brown, you mentioned that Coach Bicknell had a different coaching style than maybe Coach Searles. Can you just briefly mention what you meant by that and kind of what stood out from you from his coaching style on Saturday?
Yeah, I think Andrew mentioned that more than me. I'm not going to get into comparisons because that wouldn't be fair to Stacy. It's always the guy that leaves that isn't here to defend himself. But it's a fair question, and I'll let Jack talk to you. The thing that he's been here one day, so I mean, watching him on Saturday, I've watched their video, I've watched their film. I like what he does, but I'm going to let him talk to you about his style, and we appreciate Stacy and all the things he did for his 3 years here.